So it looks like we are going live here. I'm not too sure how many people are going to join us tonight, but here we go. Welcome to the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast. This is our Super Bowl special. I call this the Super Bowl special because I do not know what episode we are on right now. I believe it's episode 15. Do you recall what we're on?
15-ish.
I know I did a couple little short films there during the break. That I called episodes, but I didn't really call them do anything with them because I just kind of threw them out to Periscope there and didn't really go to YouTube here on the live. So here we go. We're going to get started here again. It's that time of the season for anyone who's in Dynasty. This is when things really pick up for you. Try to block out the noise in the background. The kids are still up. They're still running around. Test 1, 2. And Dougie, I see you loud and clear. Get that thrown up there. Just to let you know there's actually people who watch us from time to time.
Look at that.
What's up, Dougie? There's my brother from another mother there. Over at the Rated IDP show. You can catch that pretty much every Friday for the most part there. It's me, Oklahoma Dougie there, and our other brother from another mother there, D-Dub. You know Daryl as well as anybody. You do not want to miss that show. I mean, last week, we came back 2 weeks ago with our episode that came out there, and it was an absolute blast. We had a riot out on there. It was like we didn't miss a beat. So you definitely want to make sure you're checking that show out every week, every chance you get, because there's always going to be some sort of content coming down. Without further ado, we want to get into some news and notes here. We've been gone for a little while here, and there's some pretty big news that has come out. And I think the first one we want to talk about is one of those slow-rolling stories that kind of developed there in San Diego, Los Angeles. Philip Rivers, who was always adamant about staying in San Diego, and he stayed in San Diego while the team was in LA and commuted back and forth, has now actually moved his family, I believe, to Florida. And now the Chargers have basically said, you know what, it's time for us to move on from Philip Rivers. Well, let's see. The last two quarterbacks that essentially the Chargers moved on from, Eli Manning via the draft for Philip Rivers, and Drew Brees, who they moved on from, who we'll talk about a little bit later, are both Super Bowl champions. So maybe this is the year now that Philip Rivers gets that ring. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, well, he's in Florida, so of course that means he's probably going to be the next quarterback of the Miami Dolphins or maybe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And those teams, as we know, are both very close to the Super Bowl. So they're only missing the 38-year-old, 37-year-old, whatever he is, Philip Rivers, and then they're in. They're ready.
Well, we definitely know he's not going to Jacksonville because they've got the man, the myth, the legend, Gardner Minshew there, and there's no way you replace him.
That's why
Big Dick Nick tried to replace him halfway through the season and lost his job right away. So we know nothing's going to change there. But it is an interesting situation here because there are some good pieces there in Tampa Bay for Philip Rivers to work with. But the question is, and I know you've watched as much as I did watching Philip Rivers last year, there's not quite that same arm talent that's been there in the past.
No, and I mean, I get it maybe from the Tampa Bay side because, you know, you could go from the Jameis Winston and his 30 interceptions to Philip Rivers and his 25 interceptions. And, you know, hey, that's 5 less interceptions. And that probably helps you maybe win an extra quarter or two over the course of the season. I don't know, to be honest, and I'm kind of making jokes here because I really don't see a great fit for Philip Rivers. I mean, I know that he's a great quarterback, but it's clear his time is past. I mean, he doesn't seem to have that same late career surge that we've gotten from Tom Brady and that we've gotten from Drew Brees. And part of that is he doesn't have Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels really have gelled together in the late stages of Tom Brady's career. He's continued to be able to do everything that he wants to do on the football field. Same with Drew Brees. Drew Brees and Sean Payton, as he's aged, that's really helped him. You saw Eli fall off a lot. You've now seen Philip Rivers start to fall off, doesn't have that same gel, some coaching changes, things like that. Ben Roethlisberger is another one kind of in that same stage of his career. We'll see what he looks like as he returns from his injury next year. But, yeah, I mean, we're getting to the point where all those quarterbacks, They don't have that one mind meld of an offensive coordinator, and it's hard to see how they're going to kind of continue to turn things around and be somebody we would want, certainly for fantasy, but even in NFL terms, talking about changing teams, hard to see any of these guys, including the Tom Brady's of the world, going somewhere else and having a ton of success outside of where they've been having success recently. For me.
Yeah, I like how we kind of segued into that Drew Brees there, because Philip Rivers was basically brought in. Drew Brees was basically let go as the Chargers were making that kind of a youth movement there. Could they both retire in the same year?
Or maybe Philip Rivers becomes the Saints' next quarterback and takes over there, bringing a youth movement. Go from Drew Brees to Philip Rivers here in New Orleans. But I mean, honestly, my very first reaction, the second I heard that Russell Wilson was allowing Drew Brees to be the starting quarterback for the Pro Bowl, my immediate reaction was Drew Brees is gone. Now, he hasn't made anything official. He's saying, I'm going to take about a month to figure this out. But he is an unrestricted free agent. There's no talk of contract talk at all right now in and around the world. I haven't heard anybody mention it. Maybe they haven't. I just haven't heard it. Maybe that's anecdotal. But typically around this time, I mean, people are asking all the questions. Reporters are asking. It's the topic of conversation. It's, hey, Drew Brees isn't signed yet. But honestly, the lack of hearing about it, the lack of news is very different than the last few times we've experienced this here in New Orleans. It just feels different to me. I don't know if he told something to Russell Wilson. I don't know if the coaching staff said something. I don't know what happened, but to me, that move signified Drew Brees isn't coming back. I hope I'm wrong. I love Drew Brees. I hope he comes back to the Saints. But it would not be surprising to me at this point if he's reached the end of the line.
You know, Drew Brees is going to be able to play as long as he feels like he's able to play. We saw last year he's still got a few years left in him. As far as what we can see as far as talent goes, it's what he can actually do, how he feels going into the season. He battled some injuries last year, which is the first time he's actually battled any kind of injury really throughout his career, other than what led him to New Orleans in the first place. Mm-hmm. But that was at a very different age. He was about, 12 years younger when that happened, when he came over. So,
14.
As far as I'm concerned, Drew Brees can play until he does not feel like he can compete anymore or contribute the way he has been contributing. But I definitely did not see any drop-off in his skill set from last year to the year before. So, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, certainly from a he's not throwing the 600 passes a year and things like that he used to. That has obviously gone way down, and there's been a lot more reliance on the running game. But he's still completing a high percentage of his passes, and his deep balls don't look the same as they used to. He doesn't have that same ability to. Back in the day, he would hit Devery Henderson, or going back to Robert Meacham, or those guys where he'd be able to hit them for a 70, 80-yard bomb a couple times a year, 2-3 times a year, and it's just a beautiful deep ball, all those things. That's not part of his arsenal anymore, but that's true for a lot of quarterbacks that get to the age that he is too. So
that's true. So what else we got going on around the NFL here lately? We got some coaching changes that we want to talk about, especially the first one I want to talk about is in D.C. Rivera is now going to Washington, which means they are probably going into a 4-3 defense, which means that's going to make some IDP decisions here, make them a little more valuable, I think, going forward here as far as IDP is concerned, especially if they do hold on to that number 2 pick and draft one, Mr. Chase Young.
Yeah, so talk to me about that, because that's an interesting side of that. Ron Rivera, obviously known for his defensive acumen, did a great job with the Carolina Panthers defense. But the Redskins obviously have struggled to find an identity. They've got a lot of talent. Do you think there's enough guys there that have the talent that he's going to be able to turn into IDP starters for us going forward?
Well, no matter who gets Chase Young, you're going to have an automatic IDP starter probably this year. And then for years to come. He is that good of a prospect. He's that good of a player. He's every bit Nick Bosa as far as talent goes on the defensive line there. So, and going to a 4-3 is probably the best possible thing that could happen there, because if they would have stuck in a 3-4, made the draft pick, I don't think Chase Young has that same value. Now, going to a 4-3, that creates all kinds of value as far as Chase Young's concerned. And it actually bumps up the value of a few of the other players on that defensive line, such as Mr. Payne and at the D tackle position there. So, especially if you're in a D tackle type premium league. Man, these earphones, my ears are getting smaller or what? I can't figure it out yet. But
well, and it sounds like he's going to bring over a lot of his staff from Carolina as well. Ron Rivera was, in my opinion, of all the, we'll call them retread coaches, I guess, but all the ones who got hired into a position like that, I guess really just him and McCarthy. But to me, he's a better coach with a better. I'd feel better about having him than I would about McCarthy. That's not necessarily a huge knock on McCarthy, but McCarthy just you never heard about Ron Rivera fighting with his players, and it makes it tough for me when that's kind of the reputation of a coach that he battles with a star quarterback. It's not what you want to hear, in my opinion.
Well, and you always hear praise for Ron Rivera as being a player's coach, and every player after he left Carolina, you heard nothing but good news and the players' respect for him. And the one thing I respect probably more about Rivera than anything is the fact that the defensive coordinator he brought in is also an alpha dog in Jack Del Rio. This is another coach he's bringing in with head coaching experience with both Jacksonville and Oakland. So he's not afraid to bring in another alpha to help him coach his team, where a lot of coaches may take that step back and they're not going to bring in a Jack Del Rio because they'd be afraid of potentially losing their head coaching job at some point, right? So it's a different bird than most other guys out there, especially when it comes to the head coaching. Riverboat Ron.
So do you think he is tempted, though, to now begin the process of developing a new quarterback, or do you think he is going to be under some pressure to make Dwayne Haskins the guy?
No, I think they're going to sit tight with Dwayne Haskins. They invested a lot into him last year. They're not going to go bring someone in right now to do it. Maybe next year they may make a draft choice. Maybe they add another young quarterback late in the draft, but anyone who they add beyond that top three guys is probably not going to make a whole heck of a lot of a difference there. Uh-oh.
What's up, fellas?
It's D-Dub wearing a toque in Tennessee. The Tennessee Tuker.
Can y'all hear my music? I'm going to have to turn this down.
No, I can't hear your music.
No.
That's good. Okay, I'll turn it back.
No, we were just kind of going over here out there a little bit of the Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio effect in D.C.
Right.
And how that looks very promising if they hang on to the number 2 pick and make a draft pick there of Chase Young, and how it actually boosts the value of everyone on that defensive front going into a 4-3 defense rather than a 3-4. Where last year you didn't have that value in the IDP side of things with that Washington. Even the studs like Deron Payne, as much as you want to love him, as good of a player as he is, playing in that 3-4 did not do him any favors.
No, it did not.
So if Tua goes out, he gets healthy, gets a private workout, or not a private workout, let's say he has a workout, and he looks like Tua.
Right.
Are we sure that Chase is going number 2?
Unless someone wants,
I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't think Washington will draft Tua regardless. But Washington may sit back there and go, you know what? I'm willing to move back from this number 2, like we've seen with quarterbacks in the past there, like Carson Wentz, et cetera, et cetera. And they sit back and go, you know what? We'll drop back to number 5, Miami, but we want your first this year, your first next year, maybe your second next year as well. And they add picks because that Washington team has one of the worst rosters, I think, overall in the league, and they need help everywhere. So as much as they could use a Chase Young, if they drop back to number 5 and Isaiah Simmons is there, if they can get the unicorn at number 5, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a huge deal. Yeah, okay, Chase Young is probably the best IDP guy. The pass rushers are at a premium, but I'm willing to take another first, Isaiah Simmons, plus another first and a second, no doubt about it. And we've seen what the price of these quarterbacks and moving up in the draft has been over the last few years. So, no, I don't get – if Tua has a good medical report, the medical report's going to be huge when it comes to Tua. And, in fact, if they come back – if the medical reports come back the way I think Tua and his agent are hoping, I'm not even sure Burrow's number 1.
Fair.
Like, for me, right now, right now, I have Tua number 1 in my rankings. Now, once that medical report comes back one way or the other, that could change how I'm thinking. But I'm telling you right now, Cincy's crazy, man. People in Cincinnati are crazy and run that organization. And do not be surprised if they have eyes for Justin Herbert. Do not be surprised there.
I will be surprised. And you should be too.
I would too.
Yeah. Because that would be next level type insane. And I saw there were some reports around, but that really would be that is you just need to send that team to the XFL type of an offense. I mean, that is
no. Listen. It doesn't mean Cincy's going to hang on to that number 1 pick. You know, if you can get a boatload of draft pick, and Miami's got the compensation to make a move for that number 1 pick, maybe Cincy feels comfortable enough trading away Burrow or whoever you have as that number 1, dropping back to 5, 6 to Miami or Los Angeles' draft slot, selecting Justin Herbert there because they like him just as much as Burrow, and getting a boatload of draft capital in the process. So don't be surprised if Cincy decides they like Justin Herbert just as much as Burrow there, and that's what they want to do, is because they've got a lot of holes on that team too. The only players they got right now is a running back, and then after that, it's very suspect.
Well, they're having a lot of reports that they still want AJ Green. They're going to try and keep him. I'm not 100% sure what that is really worth, but I don't think this team. I think this team is one of those. It's not great. But I think if you plug in Joe Burrow, you take this team from the abysmal offense that they were last year. You plug in a quarterback that showed what Joe Burrow showed this year, and I think immediately that becomes a pretty good offense.
Okay, so I'm not going to knock Joe Burrow this year. He had probably the greatest quarterback season of all time. I will give him that much. But what has he done before that? How much film do we have on him prior to this? Last year, he wasn't quite developed. He ran the ball a lot more, right? He was more of a running. He was not as comfortable in the pocket as obviously this year. This year, he has those intangibles we talk about. We preach about those intangibles at the quarterback position. He's got all that. Well, he's also only got 1 year of solid film. And that I often question. I'm not going to say he's not going to be a good quarterback, but it's definitely something I am concerned about, having only 1 year of productivity, so to speak. You're down there in Louisiana there. You know a little bit more about Burrow than I do. You've seen it. You've heard the people talk.
Look, you probably legitimately know more about it than I do, because you know you watch the college game a lot more than I watch LSU, and I watch highlights of other things. I don't study I don't scout the players or anything like that. Here's what I know. I know that this season and the very tail end of last season, there was a change in Joe Burrow, and especially over the course of this season, you got to see what he could do, specifically in a pro-style offense
with pro-style wide receivers.
Right.
With pro-style wide receivers. So you bring in Joe Brady as the passing game coordinator here. He installs a college-like version of the Saints offense, where it's a pro style, and they're moving quick, they're doing things. I mean, look, one thing that jumps off when you watch him, he's an extremely intelligent quarterback. To me, that just jumps off the screen when you watch him. he
Right.
he creates things. Like he is able to make something out of nothing, and some of that's going to go away when it comes to the college game. But I actually do think that the coach over there in Cincinnati, whose name I can't think of all of a sudden for some reason, Zach Taylor.
Yes.
I think that he is. I do like he does come from the Sean McVay coaching tree, and there was a time where that meant something. He wants to run a lot of plays. Even with Andy Dalton last year, you saw some sparks that offense could be something. He made a spark out of Joe Ross, or John Ross, not Joe Ross, John Ross of all. And
You can call him
look,
whatever you want. He's still useless.
Right.
he made there was a spark there. That's all I'm saying. Now you take and you plug in Joe Burrow. You've got Tyler Boyd.
I want to get this comment out right now. D-Dub also thought there was a spark between him and the Uber driver last year at the draft. So that's what we're talking here.
Hey, I can't knock her, man. I can't knock her.
Anyway, sorry, Cal.
No, yeah, that's. I think Tyler Boyd. Honestly, like I have been trying to pick off some pieces of Bengals in my dynasty leagues that are allowed in trades right now.
Hey, shut up.
That really is. You add in Burrow, which I just expect them. I just expect if you got the first pick and you've got a guy like that coming off the best season in the college football, you take him. And look, Joe Mixon to me has a very good chance of being a top 3 player if things go right. So.
Right.
Well, I think we saw with Joe Mixon here towards the end of the season, he was a top 3 running back. The numbers he was putting up were pretty impressive considering what he had to work with there, right? In Cincinnati. He was their workhorse.
Yes.
He was their offense. But I'm not going to – see, I don't want to bury Andy Dalton yet. And I think if the Cincinnati Bengals can get a boatload of draft picks for that number 1, they would be hard-pressed to pass on that. It's a very – some of these traits we're seeing over the last few years to move up to number 1 and number 2 have been absolutely insane. And is Andy Dalton the answer? Is he going to take you to the promised land? Probably not. And if you're not first, you're last. I get all that fun stuff. We go all cliche and stuff. But you need talent everywhere, not just at the one position, not just at the quarterback position.
But
and I think that's kind of where I'm at there. So.
But that is the one position that if you don't have the answer for that one position, it can ruin everything. And so
it's almost sell your soul for that spot or nothing, you know.
But
it's like you sell everything you got to get that QB, or you just move back and try to do it that way. And I think more often than not, teams, so to speak, they sell their soul for that quarterback. They are so quick. I mean, look at what Tennessee did a few years ago with Jake Locker. He was supposed to be the next coming, and he fell flat on his face, man. The quarterback position is so hyped. It's so there's so much pressure, so much need on that spot that it just supersedes anything else in the league right now.
Well, you could also find yourself a journeyman quarterback that could take you to the AFC Championship too.
I knew it was coming.
You know, I say I'm looking at this quarterback class. I like to full disclosure on this show. This is a full SEC invasion here. We've got LSU, we got Alabama, we got Tennessee here. Okay, so we watch a lot of SEC football down here on this show. I don't think Tua, Burrow, Herbert are anywhere near the players that Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson are when it comes to changing the game. You're talking about quarterbacks who are mobile, who can move the pocket, who don't need a whole lot of help. Patrick Mahomes, we've seen what he could do without a Tyreek Hill. But I don't think Joe Burrow could do nearly the same thing as what a Patrick Mahomes is doing with the lack of talent. I think Burrow needs those pro-style wide receivers, Chase, Jefferson, Thaddeus Moss, to be productive.
Well, but he's only going to be playing with pro-style wide receivers, right? I mean, that's, here on out, that's all he's going to be playing with at this point. And, obviously it helped him to have those guys. I mean, Jamar Chase and Jefferson were amazing, but Tyler Boyd is a legitimately good, top 15 wide receiver in the league. AJ Green, depending on what version of him that we get, AJ Green has the ability to be a top 10 at a minimum type of a wide receiver. You've got, as we talked about, a really good talent in Joe Mixon coming out of the backfield. Not to mention, this is a fairly deep wide receiver class that could be adding somebody in there. So, I mean, there are ways that they could take this draft and say, we are going to just build. We'll worry about the defense next time.
Guys!
Get him, coach.
Is my mic on mute right now, or can you hear me?
No, we can hear you.
I can hear you.
Oh, yeah.
I pushed the mute button. I thought I was doing good. I'm pushing the mute button so you can hear everything going on. That's fantastic. I thought I was being stealthy and had my mic on mute, but apparently not. We're having some technical difficulties over here. But like I said, I'm still in. If I'm in that number 1, that number 2 spot in the draft, I'm seriously considering trading out, seeing what the value of the return of investment in the last couple of years in that position.
I agree with the
Especially
trade back if you're in that 1 and 2 spot, but you got to have somebody willing to do that. I mean, are you going to be the Redskins and give up those 3 number 1s for the next RG3 or whoever, Burrow or whoever it is? I don't know if somebody's willing to do that right now.
Well, you got 2 teams there, Miami and LA, that are desperate for a quarterback. So I think there is that market. I know right now, if Bengals hang on to 1 and if they do draft Burrow, and we do suspect that Washington will draft Chase Young, more likely than not. So Detroit's sitting in a nice spot there at number 3. Because they're another team that could use a little bit of help everywhere. They don't need a quarterback right now. They could sit back and wait because there's going to be a team that's going to want to move up for Tua or Herbert, so to speak, right? So they're sitting back in a nice spot.
Tua scares me. Tua scares me, man. I mean, he's super. There's nothing he can't really do, but man, with these injuries, it scares me, man. If you can guarantee me he'll stay healthy, yeah, I'm with you. I'll take Tua, but man, he scares me with these injuries.
Would you draft Tua in the top 5 if you knew you were going to get 7 great seasons out of him? And that's it.
If I could get 7 great seasons, absolutely.
Yes.
If you're talking great seasons, yes, no doubt.
So this is my theory, and you can read about it a little bit later. I was kind of going back and forth with Ethan, Dr. Turner there I was trying to put the injury into a dumb man's terminology because not all of us have a medical expertise, and I sure the heck don't. My expertise kind of comes from having similar injuries to both my hips. Not nearly as traumatic as what Tua went through. He basically had the femur sitting in the hip socket and blowing out the back and taking a chunk out of the back of the hip socket with it that they have to refasten back in there. So he had a very traumatic injury to his hip. Now, I've only had arthritis in my hip from the labral tear, which is kind of rubbed off and grinded. I know what that recovery is like, which is not nearly what Tua went through, but I know what kind of hell that is to go through that. And you know what? He comes through this even better, but he's going to have issues. So I'm going to guess 7 years down the road, 8 years down the road, where he may only have 8 seasons in him. But I think they're going to be 8 fantastic seasons because I believe in him and what his abilities are. He's a proven winner, and he's got the arm talent. He makes every throw that Burrow can make, and he's done it consistently over the last few seasons. So now I'm not taking anything away from Burrow because, again, one of the greatest college football quarterback seasons ever was last year, courtesy of Burrow.
Right.
Well, let me ask you. Let me ask you about your concern then about Tua, because what you're saying is around the time he turns 30, the hip could be more of an issue and he could become less mobile?
I think by the time he turns 30, you're going to see a considerable increase in the arthritic aspect of his hip. And I do think that will limit his mobility. Now, I think he's a smart enough guy, good enough quarterback to learn how to play out of the pocket more often. But I even suspect his first couple seasons, you won't see him outside of that pocket as often as you've seen him in college.
But that's probably good, though. I mean,
Right.
like Pat Mahomes can do special things, and he made that unbelievable play right before halftime last week and all. And that's different. I mean, that's a guy that, if we're going to expect any of these guys in this draft or quarterbacks to be Pat Mahomes, like, I think we're setting the bar way too high. But if you're thinking 7 years down the road, like, he could be less mobile. I mean, I think a quarterback position may be a little bit different. We think about these injury concerns for running backs with their knees and things like that, and then wearing down that way. They lose their explosiveness and their burst. That's a really big deal. The next thing you know, they're Jay Ajayi, and he can't find a job a few years after they get in the league. But for a guy like Tua, it seems like now he's got 6-7 years of experience under his belt, pro-style offense. He's having success, presumably working within a system. Like, I can't see any reason why he couldn't be something similar to what we're seeing now out of Breeze, or even say what we saw out of the legend Ryan Tannehill from this year. Like, where he's more of a pocket passer, and he's not going to get, you're not going to have 30-40 yards from him on the ground, but you're going to get maybe a more refined passer by that point. And I don't know, like, I guess the concerns for me would be how many games he's going to miss because of injury, not necessarily the accumulation of it, because I think the position he plays can overcome that.
Right. Man, it just scares me with him. I mean, these injuries, if Coach said, if you can guarantee me 7 great years with him, I'm in. I'll take it, because I think he makes your team better. He probably makes everybody around you better. But I don't know that you can give me 7 great years out of him. I really don't. With this hip thing, that scares the shit out of me. It really does.
Like I said, the medical report's going to be huge for me here. He may move up, he may move down. Yeah. Well, I can't move up higher in my rankings, but he could definitely move down based on the medical reports. Now, playing devil's advocate, if you're Miami or even Chargers, do you want to mortgage your future and move up to number 2 for a chance at Tua?
Well, that's where you said 7 years. Right, you said 7 years, but I think we're going to know way before then about Tua.
Yeah,
I'm gonna set the over/under at 3 on Tua. He's either going to be 7 great year player, or he's going to be a bust, injuries, whatever. You're going to know real quick with him. And the unfortunate thing is, whoever drafts him, if the Chargers draft him, let's say, they're going to have 3 years. They're probably going to stick with him, and then they're going to have to, if he's hurt or whatever, they're going to have to turn around and do this thing all over again. And that's with any team that drafts him.
Especially if a team's moving up to do so.
Exactly.
What's the best case scenario landing spot for him, you think, Coach?
Well, best case landing spot would be a team with a quarterback who's got a 1 year left, where Tua can come in and be the backup off the get-go, maybe almost redshirt his first season so he can get 100% healthy. So if you're in a situation, say, I'm going to throw this out there, say Tennessee decides to give Tannehill big money for 1 year or something like that, Tua's a good option there, because Tannehill's going to be able to do what he's going to do. And then basically Tua needs, I feel that Tua's going to need to redshirt this season. I would not, if I'm drafting him early, I'm probably hoping not to play him this first season.
Right.
So I'm looking for a bridge quarterback to be in place when I draft him. Miami's in a good spot because we know Fitzpatrick's got 1 more season left in him. Fitzpatrick had a good season. Obviously, the Chargers, if they would have been able to re-up Rivers for 1 year, would have been an okay spot. But now you're looking at Tyrod Taylor there and Easton Stick as the quarterbacks currently in LA. So I wouldn't say either of them is really a bridge quarterback. Tyrod Taylor might be able to do that. We didn't get much of a chance to see Easton Stick except for when he was in North Dakota State there. So, yeah, I really do believe he needs a bridge quarterback so he can redshirt his first season.
I'm really curious. Like I really feel like Washington could be a dark horse for taking him. And look,
Man.
I'm talking you guys on Chase Young that he's amazing. I watched the Clemson Ohio State game and I forgot he played for Ohio State. He didn't show up at all.
Yeah, but he was getting double teamed, triple teamed.
Sure.
He was getting chipped by the running backs. He was getting. They were pretty much throwing everything but the kitchen sink at him there.
But here's what I know: anytime I saw Tua play for Alabama, I didn't forget he was there. He had an amazing impact every time they took the field.
Fair enough.
So, look, I get it that Chase Young is this great talent, but we've seen that from a lot of these guys. I'm not saying he's not, but I don't know. A lot of these big names they scare me when they disappear in big games.
Okay, I'm with both of you on this. If I'm Washington, I'm not taking Chase Young. I'm not taking Tua. Their best move is to trade out of that spot. They need help. Defense is actually pretty good. You got Payne, you got Allen, you got Kerrigan who's regressing, but you got Matt Ioannidis. You've got some good linebackers coming up with you got Montez Sweat. So I think that's your front four right there. Holcomb. You don't need Chase Young. Your front four is set, and you've got an extra guy. And if it was me, it would be Payne and Allen inside. You've got Allen,
Ioannidis,
or Sweat on the outside. I think Kerrigan's your fifth guy, and you rotate him in. You got Holcomb. You've got Collins at safety. You've got some young corners. I don't think defense is where they need to go early. They need to look at offense. Is Haskins their guy? If not, you got to put. If he is, you got to put some weapons around him. But my point being is, them sitting where they are, their best move is to move back and let somebody else take this chance. Go for the more sure thing, and I think moving back helps them.
Yeah, I agree with this altogether. Like, I know I'm going to jump the boat here. Like, I'm sitting here as an Oakland Raiders fan who happens to be going to the NFL draft in Vegas. And and I'm sitting here at Oakland. I got 2 firsts. I got nothing in the second. I got 3 thirds. And I'm sitting there, and I'm not opposed to the Raiders actually trading one of those first picks, maybe pick 19, to accumulate a couple extra second-round picks, because this draft is a draft in which you can get value a little bit later than normal, especially for what Oakland's looking for. So if I'm sitting there at Oakland, I'm thinking, what do I need? I need a linebacker. The best thing that could possibly happen is somehow, some way, Isaiah Simmons drops. That's like the absolute. If that happens, cancel the rest of the draft, take your 1 pick, and walk out. You know what I'm saying? And then what's the other thing they need? They need a wide receiver. Well, you don't really want to. Okay, maybe at 19, you're looking at maybe CeeDee Lamb being there, maybe Jerry Jeudy. I doubt it. I'm willing to drop that pick up a pick in the second round, grabbing like my boy there from TCU, Jalen Rigger, and adding another pick on top of it because we need so much help in that secondary. Like, tell me more about like Fuller there at LSU. Great corner, but is he worth taking that pick at 12? Is he worth that at 19? Grant Delpit might be there. They could use safety help. Like, there's some options there, but they need help in that secondary. And D-Dub, you can talk about this is a good draft for secondary help. Or a good draft, not a good draft, especially with our boy
it's
there.
Deeper than most people think. It really is. I mean, there's some kids that There's one kid, and Coach has probably heard him. His name's Reed Harrison DeCrose from Duquesne. I'm telling you, this kid is one of the top 5 corners in the country, and nobody knows about him. I mean, you go back, you watch the tape. He's not afraid to tackle. He will come up and steamroll you in the run game, and he's just as good in coverage. I mean, he transferred from Boise State. They had some coaching changes, so he transferred from there. But yeah, Coach is right. The corner class is really deep. There's some good guys. Some of them have flaws. Some of them don't. Okuda's the best one right now by just about everybody's account.
And one of the guys I really like
still doesn't have it all.
There's a guy I like out of Mississippi State too at the corner position. Good length.
Yeah.
So that's definitely an option in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
But you can get some value in the 2nd and 3rd, but they don't have that 2nd round pick right now. And I think if you really are set on grab it, like I said, if Simmons drops, fantastic. But I think they really have to address that secondary, and I think they can do that a little bit later. One of the guys there we were talking about, Harrison Ducros there. I don't know who. Have you been hit up by Gary at all?
I have. I've talked to Gary, and I stumbled onto Harrison just by accident. I was watching somebody else and got turned on to him, and I watched every game this season. I'm telling you, this kid's the real deal. He can tackle. He can cover. I mean, there is nothing he can't do. We had him as a interview on IDP Nation. I mean, he's very smart. You can tell talking to him. He's very intellectual. He knows what's going on. And whoever drafts this kid is going to get a steal. He's going to be, I would say, a 3rd, 4th round pick. And whoever gets him is going to be a steal. So Washington, I mean, if they could get him that late, they've already upgraded because they took Jimmy Moreland last year, who was one of my favorite small school corners. I think he's a little inexperienced, so he's still learning. And you still got the veteran Josh Norman. He's getting a little bit long in the tooth, so they're going to want to replace those guys. And you got Collins back there. So, I mean, if they can address that secondary, I think that's their best bet.
So let's say Oakland, and there may be other pieces of this, but let's say Oakland, some form or other, takes their number 12 and number 19, and John Gruden falls in love with Chase Young and wants to trade up to number 2. What do you think about that?
12 and 19 for 2? No.
No?
You got to give something. There's got to be more icing on that cake.
Yeah, there's got to be other stuff, but I can see John Gruden falling in love with a guy like Chase Young and wanting to go up and.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
Everyone loves Chase Young. There's no doubt about it. But you gave up Khalil Mack basically to accumulate these picks because you have multiple holes that need to be filled. Now, Chase Young with Matt Crosby, with my boy Colin Farrell. I actually
like. He does look like a genius with Crosby now.
He does. I love Las Vegas. I love Las Vegas's front 4 and how they can rotate those guys in. They've got good, solid run stoppers in the middle. They've got Farrell, Crosby, kind of on the outside. Arden Key can come in and give a little bit of a rotation. But you cannot trade 12 and 19 when you have no linebackers and you have one player in your secondary that can play ball who was hurt most of last season. I love Jonathan Abram. I love him. But you put Grant Delpit out there with him in the secondary, maybe grab Christian Foley, and now you've kind of revitalized that secondary a little bit. If you can get Isaiah Simmons, that's a win because now you've got yourself a linebacker, a corner, a safety, a defensive end, all rolled into one.
Yeah,
that's the ultimate prize for the Vegas Raiders. Man, it's going to take you a while to get used to that.
It is, yeah, for sure.
I think if they trade 12 and 19, they're looking at Simmons because Coach hit it. They need linebacker help. I mean, makes sense. Simmons is going to go early. So if you want him, you're going to have to make that move for him. And, you trade 12 and 19 to move up to get Simmons, I'm not mad at that at all, especially what they got up front.
Yeah, if I don't know if I'm willing to do 12 and 19 for Simmons. If I can do 12 and say a second round pick next year, maybe.
Ooh,
I just
I don't think it gets it done, though. I
No,
don't
I
think
don't.
that gets it done.
and there's no linebackers in this year's class after Queen and maybe Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray, I don't really see as a 3-down linebacker right now. He may develop into that, but my boy Evan Weaver, I like him there too. There's some guys I like, but I'm not in love with, especially if you're trying to rebuild that linebacking core. Woodyard, is it Woodyard out of Utah State? He's another
Yes,
guy I like.
David
too.
Woodyard. Yeah.
So
So
there's some options there. And here's the one thing that kills me more than anything. I've been a Vegas Raider for 3 days now, fan. And but the history of John Gruden is going to tell you that he is not going to draft a linebacker in the first 3 rounds. The highest rated linebacker that John Gruden or John Gruden teams drafted was, I believe, Barrett Rudd in Tampa Bay. Was the highest linebacker taken in his tenure. Now, Isaiah Simmons, he's a different cat altogether. You have to take him in the first round. You have to. He's more than a Devin White. He's better than Devin Bush. He's better than any linebacker we've seen in the last couple of years. He can run faster than any running back in the league. We've seen what he can do. We've seen the clips of him running with ETN there. And ETN, he can burn. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He is that guy that you can do. I don't know about I'm going to move up. I'm going to move 12 to 19 to get him. But no, if I was a team that had a pretty solid core around everything already, and I didn't have as many holes as maybe the Vegas Raiders have at this point, then I would definitely consider moving 12 and 19. But with the holes that they have currently, I am going to find a very hard time to trade both of those to move up for 1 pick. Trade 2 players for 1. I have a hard time doing that. Even though he is, let's use a cliche word, a generational talent.
Right.
I was just looking at Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, and he's got Simmons going number 9 to Jacksonville. And
I hope not.
And he's got CeeDee Lamb and Patrick McQueen going to the Raiders.
Ooh.
I like Pat. I don't hate that, but I got Queen as my number 2 linebacker. You guys kind of busted my balls here the other night when I had Queen as my number 2 linebacker. He's still not a first round linebacker though.
No.
I'm not taking Queen in the first round. I cannot take Queen in the first round. Not when I have other holes that need to be filled at corner and at safety, at wide receiver. I can't do it. I can't.
Yeah, that's Queen is good, but man, for me, that's really a reach. I mean, for any team, I think he's a day 2 pick at best, really, in my opinion, from what I've seen of him. And like Coach said, with the needs that the Raiders have, to take him at 19 is – I just can't wrap my head around that.
The one thing that he seemed to excel at to me, again, not being the scouting guy that you guys are, but it seemed like he's really good in coverage. Always seemed like he was really good at shutting down, whether it was running backs in the backfield or tight ends. So it could be interesting to see him matched up against Kelsey from time to time. That could be an interesting thing. Maybe something you think about if you're the Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something you can think about. I don't know if I'm going to go that far there. But like I said, it's going to be an interesting draft. I can't wait till I get down there and I get a vibe for what's going on. Daryl, you were there last year in Nashville for the draft. You get a sense of what everyone's kind of expecting. Now, we know once the draft kicks off, there's no rules anymore. You cannot tell me that anyone predicted Colin Farrell to the Raiders at 4. The only person that knew that was Mike Mayock and John Gruden because they fired their whole entire scouting staff before the draft.
Yeah, I was like you said, I was in Nashville last year, and I don't really know what everyone thought the Raiders were going to do it for, but I can tell you none of them expected Kalon Farrell at 4 because they was just like a whoa, I mean, every bar on the street, everything, everybody was just like whoa, Uh, and I gotta say that pick looks a little crazy, especially with what they got later with Max Crosby.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know if anyone followed going up into the draft, but Crosby's a guy I really had my eyes set on. And
Hold up. I'm gonna hit you with some inside knowledge out here. Max Crosby was a high school teammate of Harrison Reed Ducros, the cornerback I was just talking about earlier. Yes. Drop that knowledge on you. How about that?
And I would be excited to see him go to the Raiders in the 3rd round.
Oh man, I'm telling you. You always hear people say, "Who's the one player you'll stake your flag on? Who's that guy?" And I never really got into that, but I can tell you, I've watched this kid all year.
Yeah. And you're still watching because you're frozen up there. You're like stuck in awe. You're like,
what school did this guy go to?
Duquesne.
Duquesne.
Yeah, he transferred from Boise. He went to Boise State. They had a coaching change, and they brought in some other kids, and he kind of got injured, and he never got his position back. So he transferred to Duquesne. You can see some of his highlights on my Twitter line if you'll just look down through there. But I'm telling you, he's the real deal, man. I'm telling you, nobody knows about him, but he's it.
Yeah, you don't hear about even leading up to the draft right now. He's still a name that is not getting the recognition that he deserves.
Exactly.
But I'm pretty confident that the only people I've seen pump him up is D-Dub here, myself, and then Gary Harrison Ducros. The only 3 people I've seen actually pump this guy up at all.
Yeah, there's a dude named Matt Walker that's pumping him up, and Matt Farbaugh. I think maybe y'all know them too. They're on him. I'm telling you, he's in my top 5 corners. I would take him easily over C.J. Henderson of Florida, just for the fact that Henderson doesn't want to tackle. He doesn't want to tackle. He wants no part of that shit. You give me a corner that will come up and bust you in the mouth in the run game, I'll take it all day long.
So I'm just going to pull up my DB rankings here right now real quick. I've got Reed Harrison Ducros sitting here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 DB overall. He's in my top 10.
That's fair.
And the only corners in that right now above him, corners, I have would be the Ohio State guy, Ukudah, and Trevin Diggs out of Alabama. He's the number 3 corner.
Right. Yes.
The rest are safeties. That's it. And while we're talking about small school guys, we've seen him a little bit, I believe, in the Senior Bowl. Safety Kyle Duggar is a guy I like too, out of Lenore Rain. So that's another guy I really like.
A beast.
These are I think the Raiders, any team could probably get in the late 3rd, 4th round. I think he's got about a 4th round grade right now. You can do some mock drafts over there. You can probably even get him in the 5th round in a lot of mock drafts based on the predictive boards that people have kind of developed and stuff. But we know how DBs roll when it comes to the draft. They might have a 5th round grade on them. They're getting pushed off the board.
And Duggar's a big kid. He's probably going to – don't be surprised to see him play some linebacker, but he's good enough that he can be a punt returner, kick returner. So, I mean, he's really versatile. He can do a lot of different things for you.
Yeah, Duggar, he's my number 10 overall player for the DB position there. 6'2", 220 doesn't hurt at all to have at a safety position. Who can cover?
No.
Let's not get that. He can cover. He's not just a thumper; he can cover too. So I'm just going to kind of. I know we talked about it earlier. We got a guy here with a little IDP here. I'm going to break down kind of my top 10 at each D line, DB, linebacker here. Just kind of whip through these real quick. Obviously, my number one DB is Delpit. He's my number one guy right now for fantasy and stuff. The LSU safety. We've seen him over the last few years. 6'3", 200 pounds, good range, can do it all for LSU.
So wait, let me ask you real quick because I obviously I'm an LSU guy. I liked watching Delpit some, but he also was a little frustrating at some points. It seemed like he had some inconsistencies. I mean, like when you watched him, like did that jump out at you? Is that just me noticing like certain plays as a fan? I mean, do you have any doubts, or is there anything that jumped out to you that looked like could be an issue for him?
I don't have any red flags per se. I do know what you're talking about when you say that. It looks like he became disinterested almost seemed at times.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when he was playing games that LSU was pretty much handling their opponent easily. He seemed to become disinterested in the game, and I don't see that being much of an issue. And he's an LSU guy. He's coming from a championship program. He's definitely someone on the radar of the Vegas Raiders. They like to get those guys from those big schools, and especially if they're from Clemson or Alabama, it seems. So,
yeah, like I mean, we watched Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu and some of those guys, and I didn't feel like he was ever in that kind of class.
Mm-hmm. So I'm also going to give a full disclosure. When I do my DB rankings, I usually have corners probably bumped down because I think more fantasy than I do for the rankings. So at number 2, Xavier McKinney, Alabama safety. Love the guy. Love everything about him. I love that he'll get in there and mix it up. And then number 3 from Minnesota. I'm probably a little bit higher on this kid than most people. Antonio Winfield out of Minnesota. Love what he can do out there.
Yes.
He's a little ball of hate there, 5'10", 195, but he will step up and punch you right in the mouth too. He's got a little bit of a lineage there with him too, right? So, number 4, another guy, Ashton Davis. He's a guy we talked about a little bit. I think he's going to look good at the next level. At number 5, I'm sorry, I'm going to put your name here right now. Nazarlidine out of Florida State. Big dude, 6'4", 215. So, I like my safeties and stuff a little bit bigger to get out there. Number 6, I got Antoine Brooks Jr. out of Maryland. 7,
yes.
First corner, Jeffrey Okudah at number 8, Trevin Diggs, another Alabama corner. And then we rounded off the top 10 with Reed Harrison Ducros and Kyle Duggar. That's kind of my top 10. Any of those names kind of jump out at you there? Daryl, is there someone I may be missing in that top 10 right now? I know a lot of the LSU people make a comment about why Christian Fulton isn't up there, but
yeah, I mean that would be one that jumps out at me why he's not up there. But you know what? I don't have him up there either. And you got Ducros, you got Duggar up there. I mean, that's if you've got those guys up there, at DB. I mean, that's big time right there.
Yeah, now let's go. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Now we're going to move to the defensive line, and I know this is kind of where we kind of always go off the charts here a little bit. I like to think I'm pretty good here. I'm probably pretty close to consensus on most of these guys. Chase Young, my number 1, no doubt about it. I know this is where we get a little different here. We talked about this on Rated IDP, and I'm a lot higher on Chase than most people. I got him at number 2, and I got Espinosa at number 3. I know you love Espinosa. I love him Espinosa too, but I love what Chase can do as well. So I got him just a hair above. And here's where we get kind of interested. I got Curtis Weaver at 4. You can make an argument he could be number 2. You can make the argument him at number 3. I won't argue on it because I think 2, 3, and 4 for me are very interchangeable. I think the combine is going to have a lot to say with that. And then for me, this is unorthodox, but at number 5 and 6, I actually go interior here. I go with Kinlaw at number 5 and Derek Brown at number 6 because I can't quite make up my mind who I want to do at this point. And I think there's a lot of people that have Derek Brown a little higher. I know at rated IDP we're a little bit higher on Kinlaw, so I'm not going to really argue one way or the other there. And then I got to get in another Alabama boy, Terrell Lewis, off the edge. I love what he can do there. He was a little banged up last year. I've got at number 8 my Notre Dame boy there, and Makwara. At number 9 is pains me because I think this guy's a piece of shit, to be honest with you, from Penn State. You like him a little more than I, but I think I talked you out of him on the show. Not because of my stats or anything, but because of prison rules. Gross I think he may take a shot in the draft because of what has been leaked out of Penn State and the extracurricular activities and the hazing that come out of the whole situation. You may see him drop on the draft board because of stuff like that. Because we know these NFL teams are like high character guys because they don't want that on-field distraction. And what we see come out of Penn State, I think, is really going to hurt them. At number 10, I actually put Uga above Anthony Jennings. That was a tough one for me to put a Florida guy above Alabama, and it really hurt my heart. But I really like what I've seen out of him. How about her here? I know there's the guy a little bit lower on the list that's creeping up, and I know you're higher on him, and that's Daryl Taylor.
Oh, man, I'm telling you.
For a top 10, I think you have him in your top 5.
Yeah, I do. I mean, his first 2 years, he kind of had to sit and wait his turn behind Derek Barnett and Corey Vereen and them. But once they moved on and he was the guy, the production was there. And his stats could have been way, way better because he missed out on a lot of near sacks with pressures and stuff. I think he needs to learn how to finish a little more. But, I mean, if he can do that, he's definitely a top 5 guy. And I'll give you one more at that edge rusher spot in the same state from Memphis, Bryce Huff. This kid can get it on. I mean, he can do it. I'm telling you. High motor, he gets after it. You line it, and he's versatile. He can play. I think 2 years ago he played with his hand in the dirt. This year he was more the traditional or the outside stand-up linebacker. So being able to do both of those, that's going to help him. And his production was just a little bit off from the year before, but they paid so much more attention to him. I mean, his junior season, he was on fire. And this year they had to account for him. Teams had to basically game plan around him at times. And, he was in the East-West Shrine Bowl. He had a big sack for them there. So, yeah, that's another name you definitely need to be watching.
Yeah, and you have a little bit of a personal relationship with him too. From I don't know, maybe you talked to him.
Yeah, he was actually our very first interview for IDP Nation.
That's cool.
See, like how I like to slide that little plug in for you there. That's how I roll here. Throw that little plug for you. Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
And IDP Nation. It's always a you know what? I had this opportunity. A couple guys, they never really panned out in the NFL, but there's a couple guys there last year I did kind of phone interviews with, and you root for them. As soon as you get that opportunity to talk to them, you root for them. One of my favorite guys last year, 2 years ago, I guess, last year, Martez Carter is coming out of Grambling. Guy, I had a connection with him. I had an interview with him. We talked. We had a blast, and I was hoping for him left, right, and center. Like, it's hard not to root for a guy when you get a chance to talk to him. So I can definitely see the Huff love. Huff love.
Yep.
T-shirt says Huff love.
There you go.
Moving over to linebacker. We might as well just do linebacker position 2 through 10 because number 1 is obviously Isaiah Simmons. I can't see anyone really arguing with that. At number 2, like I said, I'm a little higher than most people there. Well, most people I interact with, I guess. I guess the media has Patrick Queen a little bit higher than most people as well. But I got Patrick Queen at 2, Kenneth Murray at 3, Evan Weaver at 4. Because, dude, Evan Weaver, man. Oh, I wrote up a little profile on him and watched his film. I mean, this dude, he does not stop. He's got a motor that will run for days. And it is absolutely spectacular watch. If you get a chance, go look up Evan Weaver, watch the Cal Bears game, and watch this guy fly all over the place. He doesn't have, he's not your typical sideline to sideline linebacker, but he will hit that line and he will hit a gap and go on a straight line and he'll make just about any tackle out there. It's fun. It's fantastic to watch how cerebral he is and how he breaks the gap control down. Malik Harrison at Ohio State comes in at number 5. Troy Dye, Oregon at 6. David Woodward at 7 from Utah State. Now here's where it gets interesting with me because there's so many guys from 8, 9, 10. You can interchange and argue so much. Marcus Bailey out of Purdue is there. Chaz Surratt out of North Carolina having, and number 10, and this is just a personal favorite of mine, Patty Fisher out of Northwestern. He is a guy whose production dipped a little bit this year, but in 2018, D-Dub, tell me about Patty Fisher in 2018. Yep. See, he's into him. Patty Fisher in 2018 was an absolute.
He really was. I mean, if you look at 19, he kind of fell off, but 18 is where you want to look. I mean, that's where he made his money was in 2018. He was an absolute tackling machine for them.
Yeah. What about some other linebackers? I know we got some buddies there who like Bashi there. Someone can make an argument for Snowden in that whole process too.
I've got one for you, and I was kind of surprised you didn't mention him. And I have, I've kind of been scouring around, seeing what everybody thinks about him. But if you want to go to Wyoming and look at Logan Wilson, don't be surprised if this dude don't end up a day 2 pick. He's that good.
So my one issue with Logan Wilson right now is 6'2", 225 at the linebacker position.
Yep.
To me, that's the one knock. His film, I love watching his film. He flies around out there. He's like Captain Caveman, right? But that 225, that's me playing linebacker again. He is me playing linebacker in the NFL, except in a lot better shape. He probably has a six-pack that you can actually see. His six-pack's probably not hidden under 3 inches of fat like mine. But that 225, that's where my concern is with him. And that's why I don't have the other guy, Daryl, I know you're going to do some information on him for the people here sooner than later. Akeem Davis-Gaither at App State. He is a guy to watch. That's 6'1", 240, right? He's a guy I think he's going to jump up. He had a good Senior Bowl. He looked good out there. He's a guy I think is going to jump up a lot more, and especially my rankings. I got him sitting at 14. I think he's going to jump into my top 10 before all is said and done.
That's almost where I have him. I have him at 13, and I agree with you. I think once they get into these combines and stuff, I think he's going to be definitely one of the top 10 linebackers easily.
Okay,
where'd you have Kenneth Murray?
Me, I had him at 3.
Okay. I found a mock draft with him going to the Raiders at 19.
Yeah, and I don't like it.
No?
See, I have him at
I think Kenneth Murray, he may develop into a 3-down back. I see him as a 2-down guy.
Yeah.
But like I said, he could easily develop into a 3-down. But right now, the Raiders have what I would call 5 2-down linebackers. They do not have a 3-down linebacker system. Tahir Whitehead is their best guy, so to speak, right now.
Right.
He's kind of a 2-down guy. Perfect if they get him back. He's a 2-down guy. So they definitely need that 3-down role back into place there. I'm going to move over to the quarterback position so Calvin can get in on the action here a little bit. My top 10, it really kind of gets ugly when you hit number 7. It really drops off drastically. And then by the time you get to number 8 and 9, it really kind of is probably players who aren't going to be playing in the NFL anytime soon. Obviously, for me, homer pick here, full disclosure, Tua is my number 1 guy, followed by Joe Burrow. Medical reports are possible that could change. So I'm going to leave that kind of open there. But right now, Tua is my guy at the quarterback position, but the medical reports coming closer to the combine will influence that decision drastically. A good medical report. If he can throw on his pro day, then I'm okay keeping him there. If he can't throw by his pro day, Joe Burrow is going to take the number 1 spot, and Tua may drop 3 or 4 spots in my rankings at that point.
Wow.
Now, I have Jacob Eason at number 3, Jake Fromm at 4, Herbert at 5. This rankings are done before the Senior Bowl. Herbert could move himself up considerably now. I could see me moving him up to number 4, number 3 pretty easily. Number 6, I got Jordan Love. And here's where kind of there's a bit of a – so we got Burrow and Tua in the first tier. And then we got kind of Eason, Fromm, and Herbert in that second tier. You target Jordan Love in that second tier, depending on where I think he's more of a situational quarterback. If he ends up in Indianapolis, I think that's a great fit for him. And then it kind of goes to Jalen Hurts, who I'm not a big fan of. You know, it's usually not a good sign when you've been replaced by a freshman 2 years in a row, just saying. And then the guy I like and I want to do well is Anthony Gordon out of Washington State. He's that guy I want to do well. And then at number 9, I got Bryce Perkins out of Virginia. And then the man from Hawaii, Cole McDonald, rounding out the top 10.
Wow. I like Cole McDonald.
I love Cole McDonald, but he's got definitely some red flags when it comes to his injury history. He got hurt a lot. So if it wasn't, he's got the arm. He's got probably one of the best arm strengths. Maybe I shouldn't say arms. But he's got one of the best arms as far as a cannon is concerned in this draft. But injuries are definitely something that's held him back the last few years.
Tell me about Jordan Love, because that's a guy that I keep seeing linked to the Saints. And there's a lot of people who, think that he could be a really good fit with Sean Payton.
I think any quarterback's a good fit with Sean Payton, to be honest with you. I think Sean Payton, we've seen what Sean Payton did with Teddy Bridgewater this year. We've seen how he used Taysom Hill. He will cater his offense to his quarterback's strengths. Teddy did not run the exact same offense Drew Brees ran. He kind of said, you know what, Teddy, what do you do well? What do you like to do? Okay, very good. Now here's how I'm going to game plan what you can do. And Teddy Two Gloves went out there and went like 5-0. So he actually had a better winning percentage than Drew Brees. So, I think Jordan Love would be a good fit there. I really like the fit in Indianapolis as well. Frank Reich does a good thing with the quarterback. So he's definitely a good fit for India. I think he's a good fit for New Orleans. I think he's going to go drafted higher than where he probably should get drafted. I really don't think he's a first-round draft pick. But we know the quarterback position has a tendency of getting those guys in the first round, especially with that fifth-year option. And you got a good look at him with LSU. The Utah State played LSU this year. So he did not look the greatest in that game, but he did make some pretty good throws, and he showed that he could make those throws against a team in the SEC. So, and obviously Utah State didn't exactly have the same kind of pound-for-pound talent as the Tigers from the Bayou had, right? So,
right.
Are there any of these guys that, so we'll say I'll ask you as a Raiders fan, and Hollywood, you too as a Titans fan, are there any of these guys maybe in the after that 7 mark that you mentioned that you think could be a project where you say, hey, put them behind Derek Carr, put them behind Tannehill for a year or two, and you think they could turn into something?
Oh boy, Cole McDonald,
tough.
I think Cole McDonald's worth taking a shot at. I think he's probably a 7th-round pick, maybe undrafted. I really don't see him getting drafted this year because of the injury history and stuff like that. One of the guys I want to keep an eye on is Florida International product James Morgan. He's a guy I'm kind of interested to watch. Unfortunately for me, my one quarterback I thought was going to be a fantastic sleeper option, he decided to transfer this year out of Wake Forest there.
Newman.
Jamie Newman. Thank you.
Yeah.
He was that guy I thought could come into this draft, be a top 5 quarterback. I had him ranked prior to when everyone had to commit. I had him in my top 5. I think he was a quarterback that you could get a little bit later and have success somewhere down the road.
Jake Fromm is the guy that I just don't see it with. I just don't see Jake Fromm as a guy that is going to be a successful if a quarterback. I don't wish the man any I hope he chases his dreams. Does great, but like I just when I've seen LSU play him, I've watched the Georgia Florida games a few times. He certainly just seemed like the kind of guy that doesn't. He just doesn't have what you look for in a quarterback. I don't know how to exactly put that into terms,
Right.
but what do you see? What do you see in him? Do you think he's a guy that is just got to find the right spot, and then maybe he gets the right coordinator that unlocks something in him, or what do you think?
See, I'm with you. I'm not a big Fromm fan. I think he's one of those that's gonna have to land in the right spot. It's gonna have to be the right system for him. But yeah, I'm not one of his biggest fans right now.
What would that even be? Like, what would the weapons around him have to look like? Is that like he lands with the Patriots or something, or he lands in Carolina with Joe Brady as the OC there or something now, or like what would that perfect scenario for Jake Fromm even look like, where you can see like, okay, that's the fit, that's the spot he's going to be a dude from now on.
I think you're going to have to put him on a team that has a strong running game, because if you're going to rely on him, then I think you're kind of just setting yourself up to fail. I mean, you're going to have, naturally, the better weapons you have on the outside, tight ends, wide receivers, all that, pass catching backs. But there's times
For me,
like Tennessee, you're going to have a quarterback that with the box against Henry. You're going to have a quarterback that can come in there and make some plays. Tannehill did that for basically a half season. Can he do it for a full season? I don't know that. Are they willing to pay him for a full season to find out? I don't know that either. Fromm, I think he's the game manager. Better if he's got a strong running game, but if you're relying on him solely, yeah, I'm kind of out on that.
So for me, the best landing spot for him would be he gets selected in the 3rd or 4th round to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who grab a Jonathan Taylor or J.K. Dobbins in the 2nd or 3rd round to pair him up with O.J. Howard and those two fantastic wide receivers on the outside in Godwin and Evans. That is his best. That's his perfect scenario type thing.
But he's gonna have to throw so much in that situation. Like I don't know. Does he even have that in him where he can drop back and throw the ball 40, 45 times in a game? And like, it seems to me more like he'd be the kind of guy you'd want like Jimmy Garoppolo, where you win a game when he doesn't throw a pass in the 2nd or 3rd quarter.
Right.
I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm probably feel like pretty confident in my ability to be the 49ers quarterback. All I have to do is hand the ball off.
Right.
So I think obviously San Francisco would be an ideal situation where he's not asked to pass a whole heck of a lot. But anyone who's taken a quarterback is either taking him as a development project or they're hoping to start him sooner than later. And obviously San Francisco is not an option in that situation, right? So next best thing would be to give him all the tools around him. Say they draft a running back, my boy, who we'll talk a little bit later. I won't mention his name yet, but Dobbins, Taylor, kind of in that 3rd round range. Maybe add a couple extra offensive linemen in the first 2 rounds there, build around that. Then the 4th round, come back with a Fromm. But yeah, it's going to have to be excuse me. It's going to have to be the perfect storm situation for Fromm to find success, I think, at the next level.
Right.
All right, so we kind of rounded that out there. Let's move on to, I see we're almost at an hour and 20 minutes. And we got one viewer, and it's probably one of us watching on YouTube on another one of our links.
Not me.
Hey, Mom.
Yeah. It could very well be my wife making sure I'm behaving myself.
Oh, shoot.
So we are going to move to the running back position, and I'm going to go opposite here, and I'm going to go from 10 up.
Keep the suspense.
We know from 7 to 12, 7 to 11, I can probably make an argument where everyone kind of juggles. Um, I think this is a kind of a pick your preference position this year at the running back because there's a lot of players that can fit a lot of different schemes, and you could find that perfect guy for you. So just outside of my top 10 is Michael Warren out of Cincinnati and Michael Parent, which the only reason he's outside of my top 10 is because we talk about wide receivers at Baylor. You're not supposed to scout the helmet. You're supposed to scout the player. But as soon as you come out of Baylor, you automatically go way down my line. When your cousin, his name is Samaje, you automatically get bumped out of my top 10. I'm sorry. This is the expert analysis you are expecting from this show. If your cousin is Samaje, you're out of my top 10. Sorry. But I do like LaMichael, but sorry. Number 10 is the human bulldozer himself, A.J. Dillon. He's going to have to find himself a very specific LeGarrette Blount style role. I think you could put him in first and second down and give him a scat back like Chris Thompson, Theo Reddick style guy, someone who's going to come in and spell him on third down because this kid can run you over between the tackles. He will not bounce anything to the outside. He has a hard time pressing the line of scrimmage and finding that gap anywhere outside of the first three holes. Let's be honest. But the one thing that kind of bothered me more than anything is for a guy who runs such a power game, he didn't break a lot of tackles. And that's a little bit of a concern. So at number 9, we kind of go to the opposite end of the spectrum from 250 down to 200 pounds. Anthony McFarland out of Maryland. This is a guy I really like to watch. I think he's got a role coming for him in the NFL. At number 8, we have Zach Moss out of Utah. There is nothing this kid can't do. I want to put him up higher in my rankings. I really do. But the running backs I have ahead of him are younger. And I think that's kind of why I've got the other running backs slightly ahead of Zach Moss at this point. At number 7, a guy I'm probably higher on than most people again, Keyshawn Vaughn out of Vandy. Keyshawn Vaughn is just like my number 1 guy, where he did not have a lot of help with him with Vanderbilt. That line did not do him any favors. He forced a lot of missed tackles. Not as much as my number 1 guy, but he forced a lot of missed tackles and did a lot. 2018, I think, was a better season for him for as far as film's concerned than what 2019 showed. At number 6, my number 5 and my number 6 guy kind of keep going back and forth. But right now, the Arizona State product, Eno Benjamin, is my number 6 guy. Yes. I have him just outside the top 5 right now. But if I'm trying to make a trade with Daryl, I might bump Eno up to number 3. Just saying. But no, Eno Benjamin, I'm gonna go back and forth between him and number 5 here quite often here because I do want to find a way to get Eno into my top 5. I think he's good enough to be in the top 5. But number 5 right now is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And he's kind of that guy. He catch the passes out of the backfield. He's a great receiving back. He can run between the tackles. He kind of does it all. LSU is a good offense to showcase his talents. So he's at number 5 just because I do like his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield a little bit more than Benjamin right now. Now, of course, once we get to the combine, the backs start catching passes. Things may change, but CEH has natural hands. At number 4, Jonathan Taylor. Now, the knock on Jonathan Taylor is ball security. If you can't hang on to the ball in college, hanging on to the ball at the pro level is going to become even more difficult. Can it be corrected? Absolutely. Tiki Barber corrected it eventually in the NFL, but it's going to take time to make those corrections. And for me, that's why he's kind of below my top 3 right now. Number 3, J.K. Dobbins. Hard to argue J.K. Dobbins. Lots of people probably have him at number 2. If you haven't quite figured this out, there's a guy missing in it already that I've talked about. You're like, why haven't you said this guy's name yet? Because he's number 1. J.K. Dobbins right now is number 3 for me. Now here's where things are going to get a little fishy here. And people probably stop following me, probably calling me an idiot, but DeAndre Swift is number 2. DeAndre Swift is number 2, people. I've said it, yes.
Okay.
Now, Georgia, the thing with Georgia and Wisconsin, why I think they had Taylor and Swift had as much success as they did is they had what my number one guy did not have. He had an offensive line. You could drive a bus through some of these holes that the Wisconsin lineman made. DeAndre Swift had lots of holes, had good talent around him in the run game. Probably the most natural hands as a pass catching back in this draft. I think he had 70 some receptions. Like, it's insane what this guy can do.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, from the state of Florida, Cam Akers. Daryl, we talked about this before. You find that flag, you plant
We
it,
did.
you believe in that guy. Cam Akers is that guy I believe in. The one knock you're going to hear about him in the process is his perceived lack of vision.
Right.
You know what? If my linemen are 3 feet in my backfield because they're getting their asses handed to them, yeah, my vision's going to be a little blurred. You watch any film there, and there are not holes for him to run through. The guy forced a tackle every 3.25 touches. That is insane to me. Every 3 touches, I made a guy miss, or a guy had me and I got away from him. You put him in Wisconsin or Georgia, I bet you we're having a very different conversation about who the number one back is at this point.
Right.
Now, people are going to argue this left, right, center. You can't choose your circumstance, et cetera, et cetera. I really believe, given equal opportunity, Akers would produce just as much, if not more, than DeAndre Swift. And now I'm not going to knock anyone who has Swift at number one. Don't get me wrong. You can easily make the argument for Swift. It'll probably be harder to make the argument for Akers at number one. But the fact that if he tests well in the combine, and proves to me that he has that athletic ability, he stays at number one. If he tests poorly, well, then maybe it wasn't all the line's fault in his situation, and then he would drop considerably. So he's definitely, in my opinion, who has the lowest floor, but definitely the highest ceiling out of the backs in the 2020 class. Thoughts? I know you want to say something.
No, that's really interesting to me. So that would change things up a little bit in your I guess in your evaluation of those 2020 first round picks. So
Absolutely. If I'm sitting at pick number 101, just like the NFL draft, if the guy at number 106 comes up to me and goes, "Hey, I will trade you 106, a second round, a third round, first in 2021, I am pulling that trigger every day and twice on Sunday, and I'm taking Akers in the 106 spot, and I'm laughing. I am laughing, right? So, that changes my draft process.
Let's talk landing spot then with him. Let's say he stays there in the state of Florida and goes to Tampa Bay. How many current NFL running backs are you taking ahead of him in a redraft?
So the way I'm looking at this right now, if I'm looking at Dynasty, I am probably putting 3 of these running backs from the 2020 class in my top 12.
Your top 12?
I put Akers, Swift, and Dobbins in my top 12 in Dynasty rankings.
So McCaffrey, obviously you're not taking any of these guys ahead of McCaffrey. Saquon. Alvin Kamara?
Kamara's definitely up there,
Yep.
So right now, without factoring in the rookie class, I have let's see here, is this updated here? Christian McCaffrey at 1, Barkley at 2, Alvin Kamara at 3, I got Nick Chubb at 4, Elliott's at 5, 6 is Dalvin Cook, 7, a homer pick here, Josh Jacobs, 8, I got Mixon, number 9 looks like Derrick Henry, and then after 9, I could definitely put these 3 running backs in there because my number 10 guy is Aaron Jones, followed by Leonard Fournette. So right after Josh Jacobs there, Derrick Henry at the 9 spot, I can see after Swift at 10, 11, and Philip Robinson at 12.
Okay, that's really interesting. And that's so selfishly, that's kind of where I was going on that. I just traded Aaron Jones for the 103 and 2.9 or something like that. Just because I think TD regression is coming.
Yeah, you know what? Aaron Jones had a fantastic season this year. He's a great back. Obviously, I have him ranked at number 10 before the draft process, before the draft itself. I have him at 10. I'd probably have him at 13. So you've grabbed potentially the number 12 back, traded the 13 back, and added a second-round pick to it.
Yeah.
So you're okay with that?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, landing spot's going to matter a lot for these guys. But yeah, that's really interesting. I'm gonna have to go back and look at Akers and see. You can call him Akers, is that right, or is it Akers?
I call people all kinds of names. They're always wrong. So don't take my word for how I pronounce things.
Akers.
I'm Canadian. There's going to be something lost in the translation here. Remember, we spell center R-E, so I'm just throwing that out there.
True. Yeah, Swift, Taylor, and Dobbins. Those three guys seem to be pretty highly regarded. And put Akers jumping over all of them. That's good. Hey, and
like I said, when you watch film, take away that offensive line play and really watch what he does.
Yeah,
you'll see where the perceived lack of vision comes from, because he'll have a lineman, a guard, right in his left pocket as he's getting a handoff. And for me, it's really tough to evaluate a guy on the same level as Swift or Taylor based on that offensive line play.
Would you have still had him over Etienne or some of the other guys that went back to school?
Yeah. I would have Akers definitely above those guys. Etienne, love him, love his burst, love his speed. He's not nearly the pass catcher that Akers is. Swift, Akers, and your boy there in LSU, CEO, are the best pass catching backs in this draft. At Etienne, that's probably the one spot, despite all his gifts, where he lacks the most of. So I want that 3-down back going forward. I want that guy who's going to come and give me that pass catching ability, especially when we're talking PPR rates, because most people move to PPR. Who's going to get me those points there and still get a bunch of rushing yards. Now, does that mean Etienne can't catch the ball? No, he can catch the ball. We've seen it. But we know Akers has natural hands. Swift is probably the best hands in the draft. He's definitely been used the best of any pass catching back. So I'm not going to argue anyone there.
Yeah, I've already, to your point, I've definitely, even in standard leagues, I've gotten to the point where if you have no chance of being involved in the passing game as a running back, I am just not interested. I'm passing, and there's a lot of guys like that are very good. I like their talents, but
you kind of touch base on Aaron Jones and his touchdown regression. The one guy I'm trading for on the opposite end of that spectrum is Leonard Fournette, who got a ton of points without scoring touchdowns this year. So if you want to look at the opposite end of the spectrum, he's a guy you're definitely looking at trying to acquire. This may be a good time to buy low, but he's got injury history and he's outside of my top 12. So,
well, the big change for him this year is, one, he stayed healthy all year, and two, his involvement in the passing game was unreal. He caught a ton of passes, lots of targets. We were pointing that out on nearly every week when we were here.
Okay, so I'm going to move into my wide receiver rankings. Just missing out of my top 12, my top 10, was Gabriel Davis and KJ Hill. Now, Gabriel Davis doesn't have quite the refined route tree yet. He's kind of a downfield guy, but he doesn't have that elite speed. KJ Hill is a very slight frame slot type receiver, very intelligent, knows how to sit down in the zones, more of a slot type receiver to find the zone coverage, the soft spots in the zone coverage. That's where he's going to excel. That said, I'm going to move into my top 10 here. Coming in at number 10, out of LSU, Justin Jefferson. I got him at number 10. That's probably a little bit lower than most people have Justin Jefferson right now. I've seen him walk to the first round, even to the Saints in some situations. I'm not quite there because I just like my other guys a little bit more. At number 9, Tyler Johnson. I love Tyler Johnson. I would really like to know the story why he was not invited to the Senior Bowl. I'd like to know what that story is. I haven't heard it come out yet, But I want to know why he wasn't invited to the Senior Bowl, because dude absolutely impressed me with everything I want. At number 8, this is probably my one player who has the highest ceiling. He's probably the rawest wide receiver in the draft, and that's Antonio Gandy Golden. I love this kid out of Liberty. He's a big receiver, 6'6", 220, but he does not have that route running ability that we've seen from some of the other guys. He moves okay for a guy at 6'6", but what he's got, there's no question about it. He has the greatest catch radius of any receiver in this draft. Like, we're talking 6'6" here, going up to the ball, and a little more athletic than another guy, Colin Johnson there, who's also 6'6". At number 7, this may surprise you guys, but I got him this low, is Henry Rugg. Again, Alabama homer. I got him at number 7. His breakout age and stuff is a little bit of a concern for me. I think it was like 17.5 was his breakout age. Or center, so I can't remember what that number was now. I might be getting my numbers confused. It's getting kind of late. There are some concerns about him right now. For me, at 6 feet, 190, a little bit of a smaller receiver, but I'm not going to hold that against him because I got a smaller receiver up a lot higher. But there's some concerns that runs. We know he's going to run you out of the gym. We know he's going to run sub 4.3. So those are things that you're going to have to really look at. At number 6 is one of the most freakish wide receivers in this draft. Colorado, Laviska Shenault Jr.
Yes.
This dude is a freak. There is
he's a
not much. There is not much that this guy cannot do. The one knock on him has been his durability over the last few years. I think he has that big time receiver ability, but he could also be a big time bust all rolled into one. But he's got some God-given abilities you just can't teach. At number 5 is one of my other guys here that I've kind of tutored a little bit on is Bryan Edwards out of South Carolina. Did you know that this cat played half his freshman season at 17 years old? Dude's been playing college ball in the SEC since he was 17 years old. And we talked about this a little bit, and I think his one knock is, while we don't talk about him, because we've been talking about him for so long. We've been talking about Bryan Edwards since his freshman year at South Carolina. So by the time he gets to his senior season, we're not talking about him anymore. And that is a travesty. I've seen him with mocked more often than not in the 4th and 5th round. He is a day 2 receiver for me. Late 2nd, early 3rd. He's going to be a steal for somebody. I love him. At number 4, T. Higgins. I would not be heartbroken to see him a Raider. I could see him as a Raider option. Give me that another big target for Derek Carr to throw that ball to. And T. Higgins is that guy, 6'4", 215. And he comes out of that Clemson lineage there that Mayock and Gruden like to go to. At number 3, and I'm going to find a way to get this guy to number 1. By the end of the combine, I will have this guy at number 1. At 5'11", 195. I mean, this guy has got some dog in him. From TCU, Texas Christian University, Horned Frogs. Give me Jalen Reagor here. I love this guy. He's 5'11", but he's aggressive towards that ball. Watch his film. You watch guys like KJ Hamler, where they kind of wait for that ball to kind of come into them. This guy attacks the ball when it's in the air. Dude's 5'11". Wait till he puts on a show at the combine. We will all be walking around with little tents from our waist down, so we'll be pitching a tent down there because that's how excited we're going to be watching him go out there and do it. He's going to run sub 4.3. I guarantee he's going to come in at like 4.29. I guarantee he's going to have this absolutely sick vertical. He's got good twitch. He gets in and out of his cuts with speed. This is a guy who's going to move up to my number 1 spot. I guarantee it by the end of the combine. So I'm going to be so in love with him. I'm already in love with him. And number two, CD Lamb. Hard to argue. He's got great body control, especially on the sideline catches. He goes up there. There's not much this guy can't do. I would not be hurt one bit if he becomes a Raider pick at number 19. 6'2", 190. A little bit of a smaller frame on him there, as far as he's a little leaner than you'd like. Had a guy at 6'2", but they're going to bulk up in the NFL, and this guy, it's not going to hurt him at all. It's not going to affect his speed. And then at number 1, full homer, Jerry Jeudy.
I knew it.
You just wait till I put the TCU product ahead of him. Jerry Jeudy, 6'1", 195. CeeDee Lamb had a fantastic season this year. Right behind him was Jerry Jeudy. This guy is probably the best route runner in the draft. He's in and out of his cuts. He finds the open spots. The difference between him and CeeDee Lamb, why I think CeeDee Lamb had the better numbers, is because Jeudy had to produce with guys like Ruggs out there with him, Waddle, who am I missing? Devontae Smith. He had 4 receivers out there doing what they're doing, right?
Right.
LSU had basically Justin Jefferson, Chase, Thaddeus Moss, who I think is going to be a tight end at the next level. So I'm not too sure where to put him yet. I think he's going to be a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of my top 10 wide receivers there. Anyone want to fight me on this or what?
No, I'm not going to fight you.
I know if Nagy was here at the Senior Bowl, he'd really be putting up a fight for Ayuk there out of Arizona State. I just don't see it. I don't know where he got this top 50 ranking for him.
Yeah, I'm not sure either on that.
Well, what I like about Ayuk is I'm looking at his production, and so again, you guys study this, and I'm just kind of looking at stats here. Does Jalen Reagor's lack of stats bother you? I mean, this is a guy you want to take to number 1, and he had 611 receiving yards last year.
Yeah, look at his 2018 season. The dude is averaging 15.2 yards per catch in his college career, despite his numbers last season. Look back to 2018. Pull up those numbers.
Yeah, let's see. I'll have to go somewhere else to do that.
He had a serious lack of talent around him at TCU last year. There's some inconsistent quarterback play, some injuries to the quarterback position last year.
Well, how good was the Arizona State quarterback? Because Ayuk has about double the yards that he had.
Yeah, look at 2018 though.
All right, I'm gonna have to pull that up.
I'm talking 15.1 or 15.2 yards career average per reception. Dude is going to fly off the charts. I can't wait till you come back and go, Dingus, your boy gave me an erection. I can't wait for you to say that.
I don't know why I can't find his stats. Here we go. Oh, here we go. 2018. Okay, he broke 1,000 yards.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not all he does. He's got some running yards and rushing yards. He's got some punt and kick return yardage to his numbers. Dude does it all. He's a freak, man. He's a freak. And you just wait till that combine comes. I guarantee you everyone's going to be talking about it after the combine. I guarantee it. Dude's going to blow everyone's mind off here.
He's a Texas kid. I like that.
So we talked about this. Akers and Reagor are the 2 guys I'm planting my flags on offense. These are my 2 guys I'm planting the flag on.
Wow.
Just like our boy there, Harrison Ducros there. Another guy I love planting my flag on, but I can't because D-Dub here, he's already planted like 9 flags on him. There's no spots for me yet. So
Did you mention Tyler Johnson?
I did. I had him at number 9.
So I'm curious because
my one.
I'm more of a homer on this. Where do y'all put Jawan Jennings?
In the trash can. Let me see. I don't know if I can scroll down that low. Yeah, I got him way down, man. I got him way, way down there. I got to do a little bit more research on him. I got him down at 30.
30.
Yeah, see, he's giving me the silent treatment now. So I got his Tennessee boy way down there.
So what? Man, that's really interesting. So TCU's quarterback was worse than Tennessee's last year then too, because
yeah,
I mean, college production does matter. I mean, I'm not saying it's the only thing to look at. Obviously, you got to look at it. You got to look at the translatable skills But I would imagine there's not a ton of people who put up the kind of stats that Rager put up that go on to be Julio Jones types.
Yeah, there's a few. Well, what was some of the knocks on guys like Michael Thomas? Look where Michael Thomas fell in the draft. And he was clearly the top wide receiver in the draft, especially if you look back on it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, you're Googling that now.
Michael Thomas is the best wide receiver in the NFL, obviously.
But he got drafted after Laquan Treadwell. He can't be the best.
No. What were his college stats? That's what I'm asking.
What were Michael Thomas's college stats?
Yeah,
I thought you had that rigged up and ready to roll here.
I pay a little bit of attention to Ohio State.
Oh, let me see here what I can pull up here real quick without getting too carried away. In his last season, he had 56 catches for 781 yards with a 13.9 average. How's that compared to Rager?
9 touchdowns. That's all right. I withdraw my point.
What was the season before that? Oh, yeah, it was the same. 799 yards. 2
seasons. Touchdowns.
But you know what I'm saying? He had less than 800 yards his last 2 seasons in college, and he is the best wide receiver in the game, arguably.
Right.
So, yes, there's some numbers you take out of his college stats that do matter, but I don't know. That's not for me. That's not the end all. Yeah, I like to have college production, and you've seen his college production in 2018.
Yeah.
Michael Thomas, he was a touchdown guy. You could see why teams may have passed on him based on all his production was in the end zone, so to speak.
Well, yeah, and I don't think did anybody have him as the number 1 wide receiver coming out?
No, I had Treadwell ranked number 1 that year. So yeah,
that's right.
But I had Thomas at number 3, so I had him a little bit higher than most people did. But most of the time, I had like the first pick in most years that year, and I had Treadwell, so I can't really talk there either. So, but you know what I'm saying? Don't just fall into love with the stats. The stats can sometimes lie. Right?
So outside of Rager, who on that list, the top list, are you most excited about seeing in an NFL situation to see just what they can become? Like, is there anybody else outside of Rager that you can't wait to see what happens when they get to the next level?
I don't know about you, Darryl. Well, there's a bunch of guys I'm excited to see what they can do. I'm excited for Judy, Lamb, Higgins, Edwards. Chenault is a big wild card for me because I think he can absolutely destroy the NFL, and I think he could be the biggest bust too. I really don't know which way this guy goes on. I know Gandy Golden's going to take a few years to develop because he's not the most refined player out there, but I'm really curious to see how he goes. Another guy I'm really interested in is how Chase Claypool gets used, because you know where Chase Claypool's from? Anyone want to guess where country Chase Claypool's from?
Canada.
Oh, Canada, baby. We are producing some talent up here. This year we've got 2 guys that are probably going to go in the first 2. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. We had 2 guys in the Senior Bowl this year come out of Canada. We had Claypool and a little defensive lineman out of Oklahoma that came out of Canada. Chuba Hubbard, Canadian. So the talent's coming out. Technically, we're claiming Harry out of New England as Canadian as well, even though they went back to like the Bahamas or something, but he was born in Toronto. So we're getting some talent out of Canada. But he's a guy I'm really interested to see how he's used because he's another one of those big guys. I go 2 ways when it comes to wide receivers. I either become absolutely in love with the big wide receiver or the absolute freak of nature type of receiver that's going to put up insane testing numbers. And, yeah, he's one of those guys. So Golden Gandy's one of those guys I absolutely love probably more than most. And how can't you? Like, the potential there, the ceiling at 6'6", 220 that can move like that, it's got my interest. And then, of course, my boy from TCU, I'm telling you, he's going to test like a freak.
Right.
And
Guys,
Juwan
I hate
Jennings,
to
I don't
do
know if you.
I got to
Yeah, we're gonna
bounce
wrap
out.
it up here. We're gonna wrap up here. So for Hollywood, there I got Kelvin and Hobby. You know me by now, hopefully, and if not, you're probably not paying attention anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to call this I know we called it the Super Bowl edition, but we didn't really talk about the Super Bowl.
Right.
Man, this is like kissing my cousin kind of thing, because if I cheer for the Chiefs, it's wrong as a Raiders fan. If I cheer for the 49ers, it's wrong as a Raiders fan because it's another Bay Area team. This is like the worst case scenario for me.
It's all
So
bad.
the only thing I can possibly cheer for right now, I guess, is Andy Reid winning a Super Bowl, to be honest with you. That's about the only thing I can cheer for is Andy Reid. And it pains
I'm
me
not
because
cheering for anything Chiefs. Screw the Chiefs. I ain't doing it.
I know I can't. It's hard to pick one of these two teams.
I can't cheer for the 49ers. That's I can't do it. I will never cheer for the 49ers.
I have more Niners fans that are buddies of mine. So it would have been interesting to see Tennessee and San Fran, because I got a bunch of Tennessee fans. I got some San Francisco fans that are friends of mine. Would have been good to see both those organizations win one.
Yes, it
It's been a
was.
long time since the Chiefs got to the Super Bowl, since Hank Stram was there. Keep articulating the field ball down the field, boys. It's been a long time since we heard that. So I get, like I said, it's tough for me, but it is tough for me here. It's like I said, it's like kissing my cousin here.
I think if you're a fan of any other team, I think you have to root for Patrick Mahomes going ahead and getting his Super Bowl victory right now. Like, get that out of the way so that doesn't become a story and he's chasing his ring and things like that. Like, I think he can be dangerous if he starts, if he goes a little while and he's still chasing that ring. So let him get it. Let him get like a little complacent because he's already got his ring, and then that gives the rest of us the opportunity.
Can we have a Super Bowl tie where no one wins?
I'm down for it.
That's what I was rooting for with the Falcons Patriots. That's what I wanted to happen.
Yeah, that would have been rough for you.
Yeah,
No one was cheering for the Patriots that I know of.
Yeah, but when they started their comeback, then I was, because then in like the 28-3 thing here with Atlanta losing like that, that's irreplaceable. We get to make fun of them forever for that.
You know what? There's another one of us. Well, there's a couple of us here who suffered some pretty tough losses, and I know one of us down here has definitely suffered a very tough Super Bowl loss in our history. So we won't bring it up or anything, but
you come up a yard short. That's hard to swallow. I'm just gonna say,
man, that.
Yeah, you know what? I'd be jacked for a game like that. Sorry, Jared. Before you go here, what's your prediction for the Super Bowl?
oh man, I'm gonna go with my gut, and I'm gonna say Chiefs 33, San Francisco 24.
What do you got, Calvin?
Chiefs 36, 49ers 32. I think it's gonna be a lot of points.
That's impressive, because we're kind of doing this at work, and I walked in the other day, and half the people at work got the Chiefs, half the people got the 49ers. They got a little bit lower score. I'm with you, Calvin, there with the score. I think I said 37-33 Chiefs was my prediction.
Yeah, there we go.
The 4-point spread there stays. So,
Yep.
that was my call. I walked in this morning to work, and I seen everyone had it up on the board, and I threw mine up there just for fun.
Nice.
Oh, hey, Gary. I wonder if Gary Harrison was on here. Gary Harrison Ducros there just liked the tweet about a bunch of stuff here. So
Yeah.
I think that was Daryl's tweet. Yeah, that was your tweet there, Daryl.
While y'all were talking about the defensive line prospects, I went and watched his film that you tweeted about, Hollywood. And yes, he is unreal. That is.
He may be the best player in this draft nobody knows about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was just shutting the guys down he was covering, obviously. But then, like you said, like what jumped out is, I mean, he gets in there and mixes it up. And he doesn't mind tackling. little bit of safety in him, maybe too.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the first things. I forget who it was, man. They run like a little sweep around the end, and he come off his receiver and just come up and just plowed this guy. And I was like,
Mhm.
whoa. You
Yep.
don't see that every day from the corner.
Yeah, and
And if
Daryl,
you
you're
go back
all
and look
like
at
me.
his,
As soon as you see a
Yeah, if you go
cornerback
back
throw
and-
down the lumber on somebody, they automatically go up my rankings at least 15
Right.
spots.
yeah,
All
But
I
if
need
you
to
go
see
back
is
and
that
look at
dog in you.
yeah, if you go back and look at his interceptions, though, man, they're incredible too. I mean, there's literally nothing he can't do.
So
Yeah, there's
again,
one where the sideline and he goes up and high points the ball and comes down with it, and that
Almost
that was
on his
nice.
back. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that was,
So meanwhile, we're
That's
trying
it.
to run a show here, and Kelvin's watching film on the side. Okay,
Well, you-
one last.
I had to see what the hype was about.
All right, so one last time for Hollywood. He does some work there with IDP Nation. He's with Oklahoma Dougie and myself there with Rated IDP. Check out the show. Check out IDP Nation. Kelvin, he's with me over the Dynasty Vipers. He's always got some good content going over there. Come check us all out. And this is what we're going to call episode 15 until I actually figure out what number it is. And we go.
Super Bowl special.
yes.